next story here about Cornel West and Alan Dershowitz. So they actually had a pretty interesting debate on Fox News on Sean Hannity's show about this particular issue over Israel and Palestine. So I was interested to see this. Someone emailed this to me and I was like, okay, hopefully this will be a teaching moment for some. Yes, no, yes. One thing I will say that I did not like about this debate, Hannity, if you are the moderator and people are debating, you need to let people finish what they're saying and stop interrupting them. I told you guys it's hard for me to watch interviews that he does because he constantly interrupts people. I don't like that. I don't like that type of dialogue. You know, it is what it is. But let's go ahead and get into this debate here with Cornel West and Alan Dershowitz.
Thank you. We'll check back in with him throughout the evening tonight. First, left-wing bigotry, anti-Semitism running rampant on university campuses around the world, London, Australia. What's happening? Chanting in Australia, about gas chambers and, for Jewish people. What is happening?
Pause. Let me read to you what this says. Harvard students scramble to take back support for letter attacking Israel as some CEOs look to blacklist them. Guys, do you see what this is about? We have CEOs out there looking to blacklist students to prevent them from getting jobs because of their decision, because of what they said in that letter about the apartheid. You see how deep this goes? That's why I tell you, people say we have free speech. We don't have free speech in this country. I hear you, Pamela. Pamela said, what the F is going on? Exactly. These are kids. They're students. They're trying to blacklist students. And this is all happening under Joe Biden's presidency. But we don't have fascism under Joe Biden. Let's continue.
Happening on our college campuses. What is happening among the Democratic Party? Some Harvard students now are scrambling to finally rescind their support of their vile letter, actually blaming the victim, Israel, for the brutal Hamas terror attacks. Not everyone disagrees with them. 2024 presidential candidate, former Harvard professor Cornel West said the students were largely right, but they lack nuance.
Let me pause there. I want you to pay attention to what he's doing. Notice who they're calling the victim. Notice that they don't see the Palestinian people as victims at all. And I mean, before this attack, I mean, when Palestinians were dragged out of their homes, imprisoned, they didn't see them as victims. They don't see brown Muslim people as victims, period. Whether it's Afghanistan, whether it's Iran, whether it's, Syria, whether it's Jordan, they don't see these people as victims. They see them as part of the problem. This goes back to this perception that if you are not white and Christian, you're looked at with a side eye. Let's continue.
He joins us now with reaction along with attorney, also Harvard professor Alan Dershowitz is with us. Thank you both for being with us. You always call me Brother Sean. I call you Brother Cornel. I'm not that happy with you tonight.
I understand. We could talk about why we...
Because we have 31 groups from Harvard. Harvard's supposed to be, I always thought, the top of the top. To get into Harvard, what an accomplishment, what an achievement, what academic excellence you must show. A cut above everyone else. And 31 student groups blaming Israel, blaming the victim. And you're...
Let me pause. You hear this, right? So it's 31 student groups, not 31 students. Someone tweeted 31 students. I'm like, nah, it's 31 student groups. If it's 31 student groups, what does that tell you about the young people today? It tells you that they're waking up. They're waking up to something a lot faster. It took some of us longer, right? Like they have social media. They're getting information from TikTok, Facebook, Twitter. They're also more likely to be well-traveled. They're more likely to have travel experiences. They're more likely to travel abroad and to have those experiences with different people and to see the interactions and what is really happening on the ground. People are waking up.
Your answer to this is they are largely right. Hamas that murdered children, Hamas that murdered innocent
Read the rest
people.
of what I said, though, brother. Read
Okay.
the rest of what I
They
said.
are largely right, but lacking nuance.
No, I didn't say like nuance. That's the title of the piece.
Okay.
My actual words were, I'll just be very honest.
I got it here in front of me.
The words too. The words were that Israel's policies of war crimes and collective punishment against Palestinians
I'll read
set
it
a
to you.
context,
Israel and the United
and
States
Hamas
are
must take
primarily
responsibility
responsible.
for killing innocent people. Anybody who kills innocent people are engaging in barbaric acts.
You said
no matter
Israel,
who they
hang
are,
on, let me
what
quote
color,
you.
what nation, and so forth.
Israel and the United States are primarily
And the United States has
responsible.
supported and enabled.
You explain to this audience. I want you to explain. How is Israel and the United States responsible for beheading 40 children? How?
So there's that lie again. Now, it was brought to my attention when I shared a clip of this on Twitter. It was brought to my attention that this was, I guess, took place before it was debunked. That's what I've been told by people. So just keep that in mind. But notice how he's constantly like interrupting, not trying to let him get the point across, etc. These are things to pay close attention to.
I'm talking about the context. 545 Palestinian children died in August 2004. Not one American said a word. I believe a Palestinian baby has the same value as an Israeli baby. So when you have that kind of vicious hatred and revenge, you get response of hatred and revenge. They are all wrong. They're all war crimes. They're all to be condemned. But you cannot simply look at this particular moment without the larger backdrop of an ugly occupation and the ugly attacks chronically against Palestinians.
Those are not your.
Let me pause here for just a second. The fact that Dr. West has to repeatedly say, and I say repeatedly because he said this multiple times on different interviews, the fact that Dr. West has to repeatedly say that the life of a Palestinian baby is just as precious as the life of an Israeli baby. You know what that reminds me of? That reminds me of those documentaries that I watched back in the day when I was growing up in school, where they were talking about separate but equal and Brown versus Board of Education. And it reminds me of the doll test. Have you guys ever heard of the baby doll test? So one of the things that Brown versus Board of Education was able to do, which I think really had a astounding impact on the decision of the court, they were able to prove that through separate but equal, number one, it wasn't equal. The resources and the facilities weren't equal. But two, that Black kids actually had a lower self-esteem and self-worth because they had less. The way that they proved this was through the baby doll test. So they brought baby dolls into the courtroom, and they had kids, Black kids, and they had a white baby doll, Black baby doll. You can look this up. It's on Google. There's still articles about it. And they had the kid point to the doll that's pretty, point to the doll that's ugly, point to the doll that's smart, point to the doll that's not smart. And what the court found is that all of the negative types, every time the Black kids pointed to the Black doll, everything that was positive, Black kids pointed to the white doll. So when they said point to the baby doll that's pretty, it was always the white doll. Through the help of people like Thurgood Marshall and psychologists, they were able to prove that separate but equal not only wasn't equal, but that it also had a damaging psychological impact on Black kids living in Jim Crow South. So when Cornel West says that a Palestinian baby is just as precious as an Israeli baby, you know what that tells me? That tells me that even in 2023, this has to be said, because even in 2023, people just don't seem to have that same type of sympathy and empathy for those that have darker skin. And this isn't just an assumption. This has been proven through multiple studies, time and time. Even when it comes to things like health, right? So when we talk about healthcare, this has also been proven. You go to the emergency room, if you're Black, they're less likely to have sympathy for you if you're in pain versus someone who is white. In 2023, we still have to say that today. And the fact that Dr. West has to sit there and explain that to people, that tells you that this country is still bigoted as hell, still racist as hell, and that things really haven't improved as much as you think they have. Let me let him finish. Let me go back just a little bit because I cut off that part. Sorry. There we go.
But you cannot simply look at this particular moment without the larger backdrop of an ugly occupation and the ugly attacks chronically against Palestinians.
Those are not your words. Largely right. Israel and the United States are primarily responsible for this attack. Professor Dershowitz.
Well, I complained when Palestinian children were killed, but I explained why they were killed. Here is one of the leaders of Hamas. For the Palestinian people, death has become an industry. The elderly excel at this, and so do the children. This is why we have formed human shields of the women and the children. Hamas is the ones responsible for the killing of Palestinian children.
No, they're not. Who pulled the trigger? You see, again, this is another way not to put the blame where it belongs.
Also, the Hamas has a term. It's called the CNN strategy. And the CNN strategy is induce Israel into killing Palestinian children by using them as human shields. Then parade the bodies out on CNN, and you'll see what happens. People like Cornel West will engage in crocodile tears, blame it on Israel, when the entire blame is on the Palestinians, Hamas, for using their children as human shields, and then using their children as shields to permit the killing of Israeli
don't accuse me.
Again, that was not confirmed. Here we go.
Is on the Palestinians, Hamas, for using their children as human shields, and then using their children as shields to permit the killing of Israeli children.
Don't accuse me.
What is Hamas's charter?
Yeah. I have the same outrage when Palestinian babies are killed, when Jewish babies or Israeli babies. I want you to have.
Did you just hear that? Pay very close attention to what Alan Dershowitz says. See, he don't see them as equal. Pay close attention to this, guys. And I hope everyone who watched this debate noticed this part right here.
Using their children as shields to permit the killing of Israeli
don't accuse me.
What is Hamas's charter?
Yeah. I have the same outrage when Palestinian babies are killed, when Jewish babies or Israeli babies. I want you to have.
Cornel West said, I have the same outrage when Palestinian babies are killed and when Israeli babies are killed. Alan Dershowitz's response is, it shouldn't be the same outrage. This is on national TV. Alan Dershowitz, the same guy who represented Jeffrey Epstein, by the way. Okay. Shouldn't be the same outrage. Same guy who was on Epstein's Island. Yes, he was. He has confirmed that through the interview he did with Kim Iverson. How disgusting is that? It should not be the same, he's telling you. So Alan Dershowitz is telling you according to him, you need to value one group's life over the other because of the way that the events transpired. But see, I seem to remember that when Cornel West brought up the fact that he wants to make sure we tackle the issue of white supremacy in this country, I seem to remember quite a few people not liking that too much and saying, don't focus on race. You hear this stuff that's being said on the show? Let's continue.
Have the same indignation when Palestinians are killed.
Not when they're killed. Not when they're killed by Palestinians. When you can't make a moral comparison. When Nazi kids were killed in the bombings of Dresden, I didn't have the same comparison when Jewish kids were put in gas chambers and crematoriums. You're a professor of theology, don't you?
It just seems like to me that you have a favoritism over one group than the other, because I look at it like this. If a child, especially we're talking about children, if a child is killed, my sympathy and compassion for their loss of life is not based on how they lost their life. You get what I'm saying? If a child is killed, my sympathy and compassion is not based on how they lost their life. It's based on the fact that a child lost their life. And I had to raise my voice with that one because this is ridiculous. You know, you would think out of all the people, whether it's a man, a woman, adults, you would think when it comes to kids, that everybody has that compassion, regardless of what color the child is, what nationality, what religion, what country they live in. You would think that everyone would have compassion for the death of a child. And here we go. We got this old dude on here who was friends with Jeffrey Epstein. Hello. And he here telling you, I did not have the same sympathy for this child versus that child. What happened on that island, Alan? What happened on that island? You got to remember who's talking here. Let's continue. We'll go back a little bit. This was disgusting. It was absolutely disgusting.
The bombings of Dresden, I didn't have the same comparison when Jewish kids were put in gas chambers and crematoriums. You're a professor of theology. Don't you understand the moral difference between deliberately murdering a kid and having collateral damage because there are human shields? You're running for president of the United States. What would you do?
Is it collateral damage when I see them beating Palestinian kids in the street? That's not collateral damage. For years, I've seen these videos. I've seen these kids beaten in the street, killed. That's not collateral damage. When you grab someone and you beat them, that is not collateral damage. You singled them out. Alan Dershowitz wants to avoid all of that. He don't want to focus on it. He wants you to believe that all of the attacks that have happened to the Palestinian people is because of Hamas. That's bullshit. There is racism. There is the goal of establishing an ethno-state. And they want them gone, period. That is what this is about. And Alan Dershowitz doesn't want to admit that.
Let me ask the question.
Okay.
What would you do if terrorists were firing at American children in America and the terrorists were hiding behind Palestinian children? Would you allow the killing of Americans to continue, or would you go and get the terrorists, even if it meant possibly collateral damage on?
There was no confirmation that they were hiding behind children. I watched them demolish a hospital, a school. Like, this stuff has been happening over years. Residential buildings, apartment buildings.
Palestinians, what would you do?
I'll tell you exactly what I would do. First, truth and morality tend to be two casualties in any context of war. I would want to tell the American people the truth. I would tell them what the context is, how we found ourselves in this situation. I would not jump for a military invasion and a genocidal attack on a
genocidal attack
on Gaza.
No, it's not a genocidal
where are they supposed to go?
When you're killing terrorists.
This is like
it is a genocidal attack. I'm glad that Cornel West said that on national television, because it really is. Like I told you, they have nowhere to go. They can't leave. They're told to leave, but Egypt's border is closed. It's not like they can just bust through the gates of Gaza. They can't do that. So they are essentially trapped. So yes, when people like Lindsey Graham says, oh, just flatten the whole thing, Lindsey Graham is letting you know that he doesn't care about those people either. He's saying just get rid of them.
Like Warsaw, 1943. Where do they go?
Where do they go?
Yes.
Let me tell you where they go. They go to the UN. UN is keeping
from Gaza to Geneva?
They go to no. The UN has places in Gaza. They go to the Rafah crossing.
11 UN people have been killed in the last few days.
They go to Egypt. They go.
Egypt,
wait a minute. Let me make another thing clear. Gaza City is very dense. But Gaza itself, the Gaza Strip, there's lots of room. The Israelis have said, get out of Gaza City. Go to Rafah. Go to Khan Yunis. Go to other places. And you know what Hamas is saying?
With no water, no food, no electricity.
I'm going to show you a clip here. After this is done, I'm going to show you a clip of a woman who was trapped there. She was on CNN. And I'm going to let you hear what she had to say about what happened when she went to all of the places they told them to go to. Alan Dershowitz is lying.
You know what Hamas is saying? Hamas is saying, don't go.
Oh, I'm not here to defend Hamas.
Well, you are here.
I'm not defending Hamas.
Wait a minute.
Don't you ever lie on me like that, brother. I'm defending the suffering of Palestinians.
I want to hear
Hamas itself committing war crimes.
I want to hear you say.
This was I haven't seen Cornel West get crunk like this in a while, except for that time where he was grilling Obama. But this part right here,
Khan Yunis, go to other places. And you know what Hamas is saying?
With no water, no food, no electricity.
You know what Hamas is saying? Hamas is saying, don't go.
Oh, I'm not here to defend Hamas.
Well, you are here.
I'm not.
See, this is what they're doing. If you don't come out unequivocally supporting and defending the state of Israel, they are now smearing you and saying that you support Hamas. If you come out and say we need to value the Palestinian lives too, they are smearing you and they are telling you that you support Hamas. That is what they're doing. And they're going to start calling Americans these terrorists and stuff too. This is what they're doing. Now, he made Cornel West mad here because he tried to smear him.
I'm not defending Hamas.
Wait a minute.
Don't you ever lie on me like that, brother.
You do it. When I saw this, I said, Dr. West, you go this time. Because look, I told you, I ain't seen him go hard like this in a while. He said, don't you ever lie on me like that.
Ever.
I'm defending the suffering of Palestinians.
I want to hear
Hamas itself committing war crimes.
I want to hear you say
anybody who commits war crimes are barbaric. I'm saying that explicitly, but I want you to say if the Israeli Defense Forces are killing children, are they barbaric too?
No.
Are they ever barbaric?
No. If they target children,
yes. Have they ever targeted children?
No, absolutely
Never
in the history.
78 years.
That is a lot. So Alan Dershowitz again is lying.
They ever targeted a
brother,
child
you got to get off the
deliberately?
crack pipe, man, please.
No, they have
Please.
never
You don't
targeted
think
a
they
child.
killed one innocent person?
Not purposely.
Since
no.
1948?
No, not
Are they
purposely.
that pure? Are they that
You don't have to be
pristine?
very
Come
pure.
on.
Who is Alan Dershowitz protecting? Who is Alan Dershowitz protecting? He's seriously sitting up here telling this lie that they never targeted a child. Guys, it's all on video. We've seen videos of it multiple times. Who's he protecting? Who's he trying to look out for? Whose back is he trying to have? You guys need to ask this question. Who is he really trying to protect here? What's happening here with Alan Dershowitz? Again, Jeffrey Epstein's friend. Who was on that island with you, Alan? Why are you so angry about this? Why are you so defensive? And you're so certain that it was never attacked.
No,
They have
absolutely never in the history have they ever targeted a
brother,
child
you got to get off the
deliberately.
crack pipe, man, please.
No, they have
Please.
never
You don't
targeted
think they
a child.
killed one innocent
not
person?
Purposely.
Since
no,
1948?
No, not
Are they
purposely.
that pure? Are they that
You don't have to be
pristine?
very
Come
pure
on, brother,
not to kill a
please.
child. Not to kill a child.
Let me
They killed 550
Let me show
Because
something.
they're being used as human shields.
Let me show something
No.
we showed on this
deep
program.
No. When they have raided Al-Aqsa Mosque and they went in there and they beat those people, there's video footage of that. I watched them beat kids in the street. There's videos of that. I watched them push this little boy off of the cliff. Listen, all of these things have been on video. Abby Martin has a really good documentary about this. Max Blumenthal has written a book about this. There's multiple things that you can actually watch to show you what's been happening to the Palestinian people. Essentially, the Palestinians have basically been treated like second-class citizens, but not citizens. Someone told me the other day, stop calling it an open-air prison because they're not criminals. They told me we need to refer to it as a concentration camp. The way the Palestinian people have been treated, and the video's still out there, guys. You can look, you can Google them. They're on Twitter. They're all over the place. Those videos are still around.
Agreements on this.
Well, I'm about to show this audience. These are cartoons that are air in Gaza for young children that are taught to hate the Jewish people.
Notice Hannity isn't going to show the cartoons that are shown to kids in Israel to hate the Palestinian people. And I got to be careful with this part because of YouTube. So let me fast forward. Yeah, because I'm not going to show, because YouTube will be funny, interested about that. So it's very one-sided. Now you got to ask yourself, why is it the Democratic Party and the Republican Party so quick to defend the state of Israel? Now, this is something where both parties have bipartisan support over. Why are they both so quick to come to the defense?
Brainwash and indoctrinate young children. That you're teaching them to hate from that young age. Not good.
No.
Here's the problem.
And I talked to some of my friends that have lived there and that have been there, and they'll tell you it's the same way on the other side as well. They'll tell you it's the same way. By the way, and just to make something very clear, even for people who are Jewish but are not, ethnically like white Jewish. So like the Ethiopian Jews that live there, they're not on the same level as the other Jewish people that live there. The Ethiopian Jews, I sold videos before on this channel where they have been smeared, where they've had racial epithets thrown at them, where they've been beaten, where they've been told to get out of the country. They've been called the N-word and everything and all that stuff. These videos exist. That's why I keep telling people this is not just about religion. Because if it was just about religion, they'd be totally fine with all the other people that are Jewish. There are Palestinians that are Jewish. Not everyone that's Palestinian that lives there is Muslim. It's not about that.
problem
of
with,
hatred
with
is
your,
immoral and wrong.
Here's the
I just
problem I
want
have
my
with your
brothers
piece.
and others. If there's any hatred
on a
of
second.
anybody,
Let me-
including
let me-
Palestinians,
Would
it's
you
wrong
condemn
too.
Black Lives Matter Chicago for justifying the Hamas murder by using these little airplane things and coming down on the music
260.
event?
But
I want to hear.
I would certainly condemn it.
You
I would
condemn
certainly
Black
condemn-
Lives Matter.
I would condemn anybody.
Okay.
It's not a matter of
I'm
skin
glad to hear
pigment.
you.
This is morality and spirituality.
Okay,
brother.
so you condemn Black Lives
But
Matter.
part of our challenge, though, and this is important just as
You see what Alan Dershowitz is doing? You condemn Black Lives Matter. Now, there have been multiple groups that have put out statements similar to the one of Black Lives Matter. Notice how he points to the black one. That's on purpose. And says it multiple times. You condemn Black Lives Matter. You condemn Black Lives Matter. Why does Cornel West have to condemn the black group, but Alan Dershowitz doesn't have to condemn the state of Israel and apartheid? Mm-hmm.
as a leader, you see, he asked me what I would do. I would say we've got to end occupation. We got to
This
make
has
sure
nothing to do
that
with the
Palestinians
occupations.
have the same dignity, the same rights as Israelis.
Let me ask you a
That's
question.
at the center.
Here's
That's
my-
You
at the
know,
core.
I support
Guys,
that.
guys,
you know I
that's at the
support the
core.
two-state
But I see
solution.
you-
But Hamas doesn't
Two-state-
support.
You know, I support a two-state solution. So we've had this conversation multiple times on the show. Kim and I talked about this as well. I told you guys at this point in time, a two-state solution would not be a viable option. And we've talked to the Palestinian Network about this as well. We interviewed them over on RBN, and they said there's no way because there's too many settlements at this point. So this is why I keep saying the two-state solution is no longer viable anymore at this point. There's too many settlements. Also, like I said before, they don't want them there. Like, what are you supposed to do? You have people in Gaza living behind a fence, which is not a border, by the way, living behind a fence. Then you have people in the West Bank, and now they want to come forward and say a two-state solution. If they were serious about having a real agreement or solution, they would have actually said yes to that Arab peace agreement in 2002. They didn't want it. This is what I'm trying to tell people. They want them gone.
It's a two-state solution. Hamas opposes
Professor
it.
West, I want to ask this question. Would Gaza be facing annihilation if Hamas did not attack and kill all these innocent Israelis?
Of course not.
Gaza has been facing
You're not answering.
a chronic
Would they be
process
facing
of
an imminent annihilation?
since 2000.
Would they be
And
facing
2000 and
imminent
what? 2000
annihilation?
and what?
Since 2006 and 7, and Gaza was taken over by Hamas. I'm not
And they
pro-Hamas. I'm pro-democracy, but I'm concerned about the suffering of Palestinians.
Israel didn't fire a single rocket until Hamas fired 5,000 rockets.
Israel controls the
starting
land, the air,
only after
containment,
Hamas
the
took
food
over.
going in, the trade
Only
coming in,
after.
and so
You see what Alan Dershowitz is trying to do? He's trying to make excuses for the crimes that have been done by the state of Israel by pointing everything back to Hamas. And to Dr. West's point, Israel controls the resources. They control the food, the electricity, they control the water. The people in Gaza has 90% of the water is dirty water. So when we talk about electricity, that also applies to the hospitals that are there as well. So who has the power? Who's the one that actually has the resources? The person, the group that has the resources, that they're the ones that have the power. The group that controls the airways, they're the ones that have the power. If you control the land, the air, and the sea, and everything in between, you're the one that's in power. So what are the Palestinian people supposed? They have no power. They have no power, Alan. Because I'm sitting here and I'm listening to this conversation, and I've been listening to a couple of other ones too. And it's very clear to me, some of you who sit around and say, yes, it's a good thing that slavery is gone. It was a bad thing. Some of you would have had an issue with the Haitian slave rebellion. Some of you would have had an issue with that. How dare they? How dare they resist? You got to think about these things.
But it was already under occupation since 1967.
No. The occupation ended in 2005. Learn your history.
Oh.
Sharon left. Every American, every Israeli settler, every Israeli soldier left. In 2006, it was like Singapore. It could have been the nicest place in the Mediterranean. Then Hamas overthrew them.
New York would be under occupation if another country owned its air, its space,
it didn't
its food
own
going
it
in, its
between
trade.
2006 and 2008.
Let's be honest.
They put them behind a fence.
After Hamas
let
took over.
Let me end with this.
Yeah.
Here's a sad fact. This debate could not be held on Harvard's campus today.
That's
correct?
Right. That's right. I would not be allowed to speak at Harvard.
I am offering to go up to Harvard.
Got enough problems.
I am offering to go up to Harvard and
let's do it.
And
well,
I will moderate it.
We've debated before on many
occasions. I don't think Harvard will let Professor Dershowitz or Professor Brother Hannity on campus.
Well, you could go with me.
Who cares about Harvard? Like the average American, yes, there was the article, the student groups, yada, yada, whatever. But that's not the only university that's happened at. Everyone keeps talking about the student groups and what they said at Harvard, but that's not the only university where student groups have spoken out in reference to this particular conflict and have taken the same side and same position that the students at Harvard did. The average American doesn't give a fuck about Harvard. Okay, the average American doesn't know about Harvard, has never been to Harvard, will never go to Harvard. They don't care. Why not take this conversation to the everyday working people in this country? Why do these conversations always have to happen on some elite Ivy League campus? I never understand this. So get that, Sean. You understand that? Let's be very clear. These conversations that happen among the people, not just at these elite academic institutions, because only certain people are at those schools and only certain people are paying attention to what's happening at those schools. Get your hands dirty, Sean. It's a hot mess. Everything's got to be, well, Harvard, they wouldn't let us come there and da-da-da-da. Now, I'm about to prove him wrong because there was this interview, and I think I've been raising my voice quite a bit tonight, so we will level it just a little bit. There was this interview that I want you to see of this woman that was stuck. Now, this young woman, she's Palestinian, she's American. So she's not living in Gaza, but she was visiting at that point in time. And I want you to hear what she had to say about how they were stuck. And this is what Alan Dershowitz is not telling people. This is what Cornel West was trying to say. Where are they supposed to go? Listen to this.
To leave any area near Hamas, which would be quite difficult since Hamas is embedded within the Palestinian population in Gaza. On Saturday night, I asked a spokesman for the Israeli Defense Forces just where Gazans are supposed to go, given the closed-off border that has made Gaza, in the words of a former British prime minister, essentially an open-air prison. Here's his response.
But they should go south, they can go towards the shore, and they can be in locations that are not close to Hamas facilities.
Okay, so you heard what he said. He told them where to go. Now listen to this woman here. So this is an American Palestinian woman, and she's going to tell you what happened when she tried to get out.
From Union County, New Jersey, she is currently stuck in Gaza City with her 3 children. They are 8, 2, and a 2-month-old. They cannot get out. Thank you so much for joining us. Has the U.S. Embassy been able to give you any help to get out?
Hi, how are you? Yes, we tried to contact the U.S. Embassy so many times. Unfortunately, they couldn't help us at all. I contacted them through the phone, via email, I texted, and I called different numbers, but nobody, I couldn't hear back from any. They said that we're gonna call you back within 24 hours or so on, couple hours, but they couldn't at all call us, or we didn't get any information from them. I submitted a form through the website, but that didn't work as well. And I don't know with what happened with areas crossing border and what happening with the Rafah border. I don't know if we're gonna make it, but I am absolutely looking forward to the help of the U.S. Embassy. We are all here feeling abandoned, and we're feeling that we're left alone. So we're really looking for the U.S. Embassy to help the U.S. citizens who are living in Gaza.
That was just an Israeli airstrike that we just heard?
Yes.
That was just an Israeli airstrike that we just heard?
A what?
That we just heard a sound like a bomb or a missile. Is that what we just heard?
Yes. That's happening 24 hours. All time, they're bombing all around, from south to north, to the center of Gaza, everywhere. Bombing is everywhere.
Your kids, how are they doing with that?
It's terrible. My kids are very scared and they're afraid of what's going on. I have to explain all the time. I have to calm them down and trying to make them feel comfortable, safe, and trying to make them busy with other things so they can't feel afraid or scared. But like they are, like what happened with me, for example, today, I was trying to get out from Gaza. I was going to Rafah border, and
let me just pause there. That was one of the locations that Alan Dershowitz mentioned. Like they told them to go to Rafah, right? Okay, listen to what she says.
While we're going there, we tried multiple ways to get out of Gaza, going to Rafah, to the south. We couldn't make it at all. So my son saw all the locations destroyed, his favorite places. He was shocked with what he saw. So we had to see all that, and we had to go through what we say. Okay. So it was like, you're going to death. Yes.
There needs to be a way for you to get out. I mean, you're not Hamas. You're an innocent person, and you have 3 kids. You need to be able to get out.
But the majority of the Palestinian people there are not Hamas. That's the thing. That's just it. Not just this woman who is Palestinian American. And that's the point that I want to get across to people. I'm not going to play the whole thing, but I wanted you to hear that part about how she tried to go. They went to those exit routes that they were told to go to. And she said every one that they got to, there was no way to get out. So people needed to hear that. And Alan Dershowitz needs to hear that.